Look at his mouth.
He's a fierce beast.
Look at it. Stop.
He's a fierce beast.
Okay, tomorrow's bath day, it looks like, or maybe today.
Yeah.
All right, back to it.
Hello. It's been a while.
Yeah. So the last couple weeks, you may have noticed we haven't posted anything, and that's mostly just because we've been taking a break.
Yeah, we took a couple weeks off, and now we're back at it.
Yeah, not just from YouTube, just really from everything in general. We are in Seattle, which, if you don't know, was our home before we hit the road. If you want to know more about our story, we have a video about why we live in a van and how that happened. We'll link it up here. But yeah, we're taking a break in Seattle and just resting up, and really have just turned off pretty much all screens, computers and phones and stuff like that when we haven't been working. So we're back and we're rested.
We're rested, and
almost.
Today, if this is your first video ever watching, we typically do, once a week, we typically do a video where we answer your frequently asked question. And so if you go to letsbe.us/questions and submit your question there, we may answer it. And today, it's all about this guy. Hey, Kramer.
Hey, where are you going? Oh, come here.
Come here.
Sneaking away.
You want to say hi? So today's question is all about this guy, and all about traveling and living in a van with a dog.
In this video, we're going to start by talking about what traveling full-time with a dog has been like for us so far.
Yeah, kind of what that looks like maybe on a typical day.
Yeah, we'll give you sort of just an overview of our experiences, and then we'll go ahead and answer some of the questions we've received over on Instagram, some specific questions that you guys have regarding traveling with a dog full-time, and specifically also van life with a dog. So
cool.
Let's hop into it.
Yeah.
Traveling with a dog is not impossible. A lot of people have questions about, should I get a dog before I get in a van, or is it okay if I bring my dog along? I mean, that's really going to be different for everybody, and I think there's a lot of different ways people travel full-time or even live in a van full-time. For us, we do a mix of cities and rural, everything. We do a lot of stuff.
No.
Really, I guess the best way of saying it is just, it's an extra thing to always have to consider, which may seem obvious, but you'll have to consider the dog when you pick where you're traveling and what time of year, how long you're going to be able to be gone from the van, and all this kind of thing. So for us, we travel in a van full-time. That's our mode of transportation. We hit up a variety of cities and national parks and BLM and national forests. We hit it up everything. Like, we want to see as much as we can. A lot of people really do van life, and they want to live strictly in a city and do that full-time, to live in one place, or you know, maybe they are on national forest or BLM all the time and they really want to be off-grid. I'd say that if you're planning to van life in the city, having a dog is going to be much more difficult.
Yeah, it's a little harder.
Yeah, versus...
I mean, it depends on the city too, because right now we're in Seattle and they're very dog-friendly here. They have tons of dog parks, which are amazing. But when we were in the Midwest, the dog parks were kind of few and far between and a little lacking.
Yeah, and even places in Seattle, like dogs are allowed in breweries, even some coffee shops. But then there's places like when we were in Maine, dogs weren't allowed anywhere really, except for on a few patios.
I think, honestly, Kramer enjoys the van.
He does.
He enjoys traveling. When we lived in Seattle, he actually had like separation anxiety, and we couldn't leave.
Which sounds ridiculous, but I promise it's a real thing.
It's a real thing, and our landlord was ticked, and we couldn't leave him very long. He hated being alone, and now in the van, it's just like he
loves it.
Yeah,
he loves being left alone in the van for a little bit. Whereas, like Chris said, like when we were in Seattle, he hated being in his kennel or even just out and about. He would bark for hours, and we would watch him on our camera that we now have in the van, and he would just bark and stress himself out. So for him, it's been a good move. But that may be different for different dogs.
Yeah.
It may be different for dogs of different size even, or any kind of thing.
Yeah,
so,
you know your dog or your animal, whatever you're taking with you on the road, and so you know its limitations and what to expect. If they're used to being left alone for a long time, it's probably okay to leave them alone for a long time.
The way we look at it is, if we were living in Seattle still, Kramer would probably still be having to stay in a kennel if we were gone running errands or something like that. And this van is a massive kennel. He doesn't have to stay in a cage when we're in the van because he loves it so much. It's not a threat to him.
No.
People have asked us, should I get a dog before moving into a van or traveling full time? And I would say if you don't already have a dog, don't rush to get one.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you can't later on, but it does add a whole host of complications that it really does limit you. And we love our little guy. He's a member of the family, but
like for example, we can't go, if we're in a national park, we can't do a really long hike unless we get a dog sitter, you know, something like that. And so there are complications that come with having a dog, but I do say that the benefits outweigh the bad.
For sure. Yeah, I would for sure say that. It's just an extra level of planning. So if you like to be really spontaneous and you really like to, you know, foot and float all over the country and all that kind of thing, a dog may not be for you.
So a typical daily routine, what it looks like for us is we wake up, we get Kramer, and he's probably the first thing that the first thing that we do is take him outside and do a little walk, little bathroom break, and then kind of head out on our day.
Like we always put him first as far as we make sure Kramer's taken care of, he's getting a little exercise, and then we bring him back in and we feed him. Mm-hmm. Do you want to eat? All right, let's go eat. Come on. Good stuff. And then if we have to leave him for a bit, we'll be fine to do that because he's already had a little exercise and it's probably still pretty early. We're usually early risers and we're usually up by 5:30 or 6.
Yeah, 5:30 or 6.
So.
And this dog, he's the only dog I know that he's so hard to wake up. Like it's almost embarrassing how hard it is to wake this dog up.
We have to drag him out of the bed to put his collar on and to take him outside.
Kramer's time to get out. Come on. Kramer. Kramer, you wanna go outside? So what we'll do, we'll take him outside, walk him, do all that, and then he goes back in the van as we may go out and do chores or we work for a few hours, and then after that we head back to the van, and then that's normally Kramer time.
Yeah, Kramer really goes everywhere with us that he can. I mean, unless somebody says dogs are not allowed, he's with us. I mean, if we go out to eat even, I mean, we go and we try to sit on a patio so he can go with us. I mean, we take him to parks, we try to pick places that we can work that are good, that he can go with us.
Kramer gets out at least 2 times a day for really good exercise times. Whether that's like a 4-mile run or maybe it's a trip to the dog park, whatever it is, wherever we're at, he gets to go outside and maybe chase squirrels or the ball.
But yeah, he really does go pretty much everywhere with us, which is really nice. And he's a good little, we call him travel size. He's, 28 pounds right now. Actually, he's pushing 31. Really.
He looks huge right now.
He's not that big. He's mostly hair. Well, we thought he was all hair until we took him to the vet for a checkup recently.
It's true.
And vet put him on a mild diet, so I'm working on cutting him back some.
We mentioned in a video a while ago just about rain, and rain changes the entire dynamic when having a dog because essentially everything in the van is wet.
Especially when your dog is a sponge, practically.
And so, there are different complications like that. So rain's one of them. I mean, it's all dependent on weather. So a lot of it's dependent on weather.
I mean, where we travel really depends on what the dog can handle. So a lot of people say, why don't you have AC in your van and that kind of thing? Well, truth is that we follow the good weather. I mean, we're both from the Southeast, so we're used to hot and humid weather. I mean, we can handle it. And then we lived in Seattle. We didn't even have AC when it was mid-90s and stuff. So we know what heat's like. That being said, he is a dog, and we would never leave him in a situation or in the van where it's too hot at all. One thing we did buy for the van, and we got a lot of crap on this in the van tour video because I called it a temperature detector. This is our temperature detector. And yes, guys, I know it is a thermometer, but the reason I called it a temperature detector versus a thermometer is, 1, that's the actual specific name that the security system gave it, but 2, it really doesn't just measure the temperature like a thermometer does. It actually detects it and notifies us on our phones via Wi-Fi in the van when the temperature gets either too hot or too cold. We set parameters on it ourselves, and it notifies us, hey, it's crossed the limit that you guys feel safe for your dog to be in the van, and so that we know, like, okay, we need to go back to the van now. And we set it to be smaller parameters than maybe what we actually are comfortable with, just so we have time to get there and assume that maybe it's not completely accurate. But it has been pretty accurate.
Yeah, and I do want to touch on this too, that we do follow the good weather, but obviously when the sun is shining, it does get hot in the van. But those reflectics that we have for the front windshield and the two side windows, it makes it completely dark. It is a game changer when it comes to temperature within inside the van. And it actually is pretty moderate and cool, especially when you have the fan going.
Yeah, we run the fan, and we also crack a window so it gets like a wind tunnel going in there.
Yeah.
And between the reflectics too, it really does keep it very moderate. So really it's pretty easy to control the temperature of the van even without an AC unit. We do have a heater, so traveling to colder temperatures is actually a lot easier than traveling to hotter temperatures.
Yeah.
And typically we travel on the cusp of the seasons anyway, so being in the cooler weather is not that hard for us. It's actually ideal. So depending on your needs and depending on what you're comfortable with, will depend on whether or not you need AC, or depending on where you travel and when you travel and all that kind of thing.
So we've been talking about what it's like to travel for us with a dog, but there are several questions that fall into this category. So we wanted to go ahead and just bring those up and answer all these questions about dogs.
So we asked you guys on Instagram recently, like, what are your specific questions you have about bringing a dog along? So we're going to answer those for you, just sort of go through your specific questions. What do you do with your dog if you can't take them where you're going? And this person who wrote it, they said they have a 90-pound golden retriever and they know he wouldn't be fit to do everything they like to do on the road. Also, do you find your dog has settled down enough at night to stay still? I feel like dogs could feel cooped up inside in a van at night. These are questions I have and wondered. Can't wait for the video. When we can't take him with us, we already answered that. We leave him in the van.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's really okay. So I would definitely try testing your dog in a car, a safe car, something like that, before you throw him in a van and hope it works. He has always loved car rides, so he's okay with it.
Yeah.
As far as feeling okay with him being still at night, once it gets dark outside, this dog is done until morning time.
And maybe that's our dog, because he's pretty
chill.
It's pretty chill. And once it hits 8 p.m., he's like, it's time for bed.
Yeah.
So
He'll start walking to the back of the van like, please put me up there.
Yeah.
So he does sit really still, and he has his like own little area of the bed. He lays underneath the cabinets above our bed, and he likes it.
And I will say that we do put blinds up in our windows at night, so he's not able to see anything outside, and normally there's not much noise happening around us. And if there is a noise, occasionally he'll bark, but I would say 95% of the time he's actually okay.
Yeah, I can only remember like one time where he barked at night specifically, and I think it was an armadillo behind our camper. So
yeah,
it was in Florida. So do you feel like you have enough floor space for both you and your dog? We have 2 dogs, 10 pounds and 30 pounds, and I worry they'll feel cramped in a van. We also like to throw toys for them in the house, and I worry won't be able to play with them as much inside the van. How do you deal with that on days when you have to be inside mostly because of the weather, traveling, etc.?
I think that's a really good question, because already the van is such a small space, and so sometimes it's hard for us to both be back in the back at the same time, and then adding a dog in that mix, especially, he just loves so much and so hard that
he likes to be right with us all the time.
And so a lot of times he gets underfoot, and so we're like, okay, we have to figure this out. With 2 dogs,
it'd be tight. As far as like playing with them in the van, I mean, I guess it's different depending on your layout, but we have a pretty large van.
Yeah. And
besides like tug of war, there's really not much room to play with your dog. And that's, for us, the van is a great way for us to get in places. We can travel wherever, especially like more remote places where it's really open and he has tons of space to run around, or even just city parks. Like, it doesn't take much just to hop over to a city park if we're in the city. So I wouldn't count on the van being your main place for the dog to play, because it is really tight. The second part of that question is, how do you deal with that on days when you have to be inside mostly because of weather, traveling, etc.? And we kind of touched on that. I mean, we really do our best to just multiple times a day make sure the dog gets out, whether that's at a, for a run, which you can pretty much run anywhere on a sidewalk, or you can go to a dog park, or if you're off grid, I mean, the world is your oyster kind of thing. There really are options. You just have to plan a little bit further ahead to make sure that your route will hit something that your dog can enjoy.
Yeah.
I worry that my dog would be uncomfortable with the constant change of surroundings and would want to stay guard or look out the windows and bark at anything and everything at night. Do you ever experience this? As far as the dog being uncomfortable traveling,
our dog loves it.
I mean, he flew home with us for Christmas when he was 4 months old. He's always traveled and been to new places. So I'd say if you have an older dog that isn't used to changing and traveling and all that kind of thing, maybe try it out first. What would you say?
I would say that. I would say, try. I know dogs that they don't like to get in the car. They don't like to go anywhere, and so you have to like almost sedate them to get them in there. And so if your dog's like that, the van's probably not going to work. But for our dog,
he loves it.
He loves it. He loves being able to stick his nose out the window and smell and just go. And I mean, we should honestly come out with like a book of all the different dog parks around America, because this dog has probably been to most of them.
There are people who've kind of had negative comments about having a dog in a van and saying, that's not fair to the dog and that kind of thing. But the way we look at it is we work from home, which is the van, and we're with this dog all day pretty much.
Yeah.
And so we don't have to leave him for 9 hours a day to go to work. I mean, he may live in a van, but he spends 8 hours a day outside of that van at least. So, I mean, he's got a pretty good life.
Yeah.
And I think van life could be a really good option for a dog as long as you're, like we said, I think city living would probably be a little harder with one, because you will be more restricted to where you can take it. What size and breed are too big? That's your own call.
Yeah, that's up to you.
Yeah.
We had somebody call us and said they're taking 3 dogs in their van, and that's great for them.
Yeah.
It's really up to your preference. And
I think it depends on if you're full-time or part-time, and like we said 1,000 times, like it really depends on where you're going and what you want to do with the van.
We know people that have labs in their vans, and we know people who have chihuahuas. So, I mean,
I don't know if there's really a great answer. It really, Kramer's a golden doodle, so their temperament, like they do like to get out and run around, but they're people dogs, and so they like being with us, and he's a super mild-tempered dog. How do you handle vet care? That's a good question.
Ooh, that is a good question. So before we started on our trip in our van, we actually found a vet in the town that we have our permanent residence at, and we take him there, but since we're on the road, it does look a little different, especially if he does get sick or there needs to be a checkup or something like that.
Yeah, animals in general are not as hard to transfer records as, a human's records.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a human, the doctor has to call over, you have to transfer the records, whatever. No squirrel, Kramer, no squirrel. Buddy, sit, you wait, you do not get that squirrel. But for him, it works out well that our vet, his new current, so the town that we established residency with and got a new vet back in Georgia is actually where my parents live. So we know we're guaranteed to visit for holidays and stuff like that for his annual checkup, which is when we did his annual checkup was around Christmas time.
Yeah.
But as far as we've had to stop by a vet a couple of times for small issues that he's had on the road, and his vet in Chattanooga actually sent his records over on a PDF to my phone via email. And so anytime we have had to go in, even to like a groomer's, because they want to see proof of vaccines, we just show them the PDF, and it's not a big deal. So really, walking into a new vet office is not near as hard as if you are getting sick or something.
It's super easy.
Yeah.
And most vets, and then whatever town you're in, we just look on Google or Yelp, for kind of the best, or if we have friends there, we'll ask for like just the best reviewed vets, and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, the issues we've had on the road have not been major, but
no.
Yeah, so always keep like your dog's vaccine records and all that kind of thing in your phone, just in case.
So that's your questions. As far as resources for living on the road with animals, I think we could recommend rover.com, which is an app.
They also have an app, yeah.
Yeah, they also have an app.
It's almost like Airbnb for dogs. You can find dog sitters, dog groomers, all that kind of thing, and book them via your phone. That's nice.
Yeah, Bring Fido is another website/app. And that kind of tells you like different restaurants or hotels or
city parks.
Yeah,
it's just about like you enter the city, like the city that you're going to, and then it pulls up different activities or whatever in that city. I think those are pretty much just the two we use. Rover if we need to have a dog sitter, Bring Fido if we want to find something to do with the dog. If not, we just go to Google Maps and call and ask if it's okay if we bring our dog.
So maybe a better resource or have another resource.
Yes.
We would love to know about it. So if you can leave that in the comments below, we'd love to know if you travel or maybe you go out of town. Like what do you use to have your dog babysat or dog sat?
Or what do you do to find activities to do with your dog if you're in a city?
Yeah, so leave that below. So if you like this video, make sure you hit subscribe down below. And if you're on Instagram, go ahead and give us a follow over there because we sometimes post daily there.
We try to post daily.
Yeah, a little bit. So anyway, thanks again for watching this video and we'll see you in the next one.
See ya.